A rousing end to the Democratic Party's four-day national convention. Kamala Harris has formally accepted the party's nomination for president, with a speech that sets the tone for a campaign to the White House in the months to come.
On behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America. And with this election, our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past, a chance to chart a new way forward.
Ms. Harris recounted details of her beginnings in a working-class family growing up with immigrant parents. She said empowering the middle class would be a defining goal of her presidency. Simon Marks in Chicago has more on Ms. Harris's speech.
So delegates at this Democratic Party convention are now streaming out of the United Center here in Chicago and preparing to head back to their home states and districts, with Kamala Harris's words ringing in their ears. She urged them to do everything that they can do over the next roughly 75 days in order to eke out a victory against former President Donald Trump. This was a speech in which Kamala Harris devoted a considerable amount of time focusing on her biography, introducing herself to the television audience nationally, many of whose members may not be particularly familiar with the vice president's background. She talked about her life as the daughter of immigrant parents, spoke of early experiences that inspired her to become a prosecutor, and then of her relationship with the civil rights movement, tracing it all the way back to her own parents who met at a civil rights meeting. This speech was very long on sweeping promises to protect the traditions of American life. And it was also very long on attacks on Donald Trump and everything that he stands for. The vice president said that the country has a fleeting and precious moment available to it in this election to save American democracy. She said that Donald Trump was going to implement an extreme right agenda. She cited what is known as Project 2025, even though Trump himself has dissociated himself from it. She said that it was going to bring America to a point where many of its own freedoms and traditions would be undone by a president of the United States who would not have to worry about any constitutional guardrails following the recent decision of the Supreme Court to grant any president of the United States immunity for all actions committed in office. She promised to continue growing the economy with an intensity of focus on the middle class, to protect America's rights under the Affordable Care Act, to health care, absolutely to protect reproductive rights in the United States, and to sign a bill into law codifying those protections as soon as Congress is able to pass that bill, in the event that Congress ever finds itself so minded. On the issue of international policy, Kamala Harris again spoke in sweeping terms, saying that it was vital that the United States, not China, win the battle for the 21st century. She said that she would not cozy up to dictators like Kim Jong-un, tyrants and dictators who are rooting for Donald Trump. They know, she said, he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors and will not stand up to them. But mostly what Kamala Harris was trying to do here was to reach into American living rooms and say, listen, Kamala Harris, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, we are more relatable to you, working and middle-class Americans, than Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And there's no doubt that over the course of the last 4 days, with all of the speeches that we have heard here, Democrats are leaving this convention convinced that they have now pivoted away from the gerontocracy of the Biden era to a new, younger generation of leadership and a new, more relatable final generation of leadership they hope that will now go on to win the battle for the White House. Simon Marks, CNA, at the Democrat convention in Chicago.